We have with us today Jody Van Meter of Maryland. I met Jody and her husband John at the Deplorable Thursday night, and I wanted to talk to her about her experiences. How are you today, Jody?
I'm fantastic. How about you, Cari?
I'm doing great. Tell me, how did your handsome husband John and you, such a gorgeous couple, how did you two end up at the Deplorable?
Well, we've been following Phil Mitchell and some others on Twitter, and I saw it come up one day and just thought, I just want to do this. The tickets popped up for sale. This was for the original venue before it reopened at the press club, and I thought, I don't know if John will want to go because he is more of an introvert, but I just bought the tickets and told him later, and he was excited. And that was basically it. I just felt like, this is our time to show our support for Trump.
Yeah, exactly. So when you were taking your husband, John, through the fences and the protesters and the police flashing lights, was he looking at you like, what have you done to me?
I didn't even look back. It was crazy. It was quite an experience to get there. We saw on Periscope on our Uber ride down that there had been some, a little bit of anarchist behavior from the protesters.
Mm-hmm.
And we were already on our way. So our driver dropped us off, and we thought, well, this is it. And we were going to go. So
that's excellent. So once you got inside, what were your impressions of just the event and the people inside?
Oh, night and day from the outside. I mean, outside, people were screaming at us and chanting and trying to keep us from getting in. And inside, everyone was so nice. Everyone was so polite. It was wonderful to just be in a group like that we all had a common interest and a common support for President Trump. And people were offering to hold our place in line so we could go get our wristband, and just the nicest people.
It was, wasn't it? And there was a little bit of everybody there, was there not?
It was great. It was so much fun to meet everybody, and people from all over the place, people with all different backgrounds. It was really fun.
It was. I met a woman, and the very first thing in the restroom, she had driven a motorcycle up from Panama City, Florida, with Bikers for Trump.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I mean, just people from all over, just average, ordinary, salt of the earth Americans. A lot of fun to be there. Was there anyone you met in particular that you were really hoping to meet?
Well, I was actually hoping to meet you because I enjoy hearing you on this show. That's the truth. But we were also really excited to meet James O'Keefe. And
yes.
He was the first person we saw when we got off the elevator and walked into the ballroom area. And he could not have been nicer. He was so gracious. And we were able to tell him thank you for keeping us all safe. And he was a lot of fun to meet.
Yeah, I think without James O'Keefe's undercover work, I'm not sure the Deplorable would have happened.
I know. If it had happened, I don't think any of us would have made it to the inside of it.
Right. Okay, so you and your husband are from Maryland. And
yes, we are.
What was it like to be a Trump supporter in Maryland? When did you get on the Trump train, and then what was it like to ride the Trump train in a blue state?
It's pretty brutal here in Maryland. We're a little bit out. We're about 50 miles outside of D.C. and outside of Baltimore in the Frederick area. And Frederick is a little bit more heavily Trump, but you have so many people who work in D.C. in Baltimore that you really get quite a diversity of opinions. But, of course, the people who were against Trump were so much louder the whole time. So the general sentiment was you couldn't possibly support someone like Trump all through the primaries. And in about January or so, I started to think, I don't, why are they so against him? What is the problem here? So I started to look into it, and that's really the first time I started to connect to social media just to find some other source of information than what the news was telling us. And we decided to go to a Trump rally in Hagerstown in March, and by then we were on board. I mean, we were sure that we were on the right track, and we were lucky to have a candidate
So
hit it from the outside like Trump.
right. So you were, where were you getting your news before you joined Twitter?
Fox News, I guess, which I wasn't thrilled with, and I knew that a lot of the coverage really wasn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
Drudge Report we've been looking at for years, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to really get the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I had never done Twitter. I had never... I found the conservative treehouse.com early on, and that really helped fill in the missing pieces. And from there, it just, once you start, you're able to find more and more from those people in those places.
Right. The conservative treehouse is just one of my favorites. And I got to meet Jim
That
Hoff.
was huge.
Got to meet Jim Hoff, too. The Gateway Pundit was there at the Deplorable. Such an honor to meet him. He was one of the few websites that was pro-Trump from early on. So really
that was another one. We told a lot of people about those two sites because none of our friends knew. Nobody knew. Nobody knew where to go.
Right. Well, I'm so glad you joined Twitter. If you weren't on Twitter, you just kind of don't understand Trump or the Trump supporters. It's just it's like a parallel universe.
It is. And you're so isolated if you're in a blue area. There's no way to feel like you are connected to other people who have similar political opinions because you get drowned out by all that noise.
It's true. It's true.
You need that support from the social media to keep your hopes up.
It's true. Not just to keep your hopes up, but to not feel alone.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Well, golly, it was so much fun to meet you. It was just a pleasure. I got to see a picture of your two gorgeous children. So my best to you and to John. I'm so glad that people finally stood up and said, I'm celebrating this. I'm going to the Deplorable. I'm standing up.
And have a good time.
He's our president, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it anymore. That's what the media wants us to feel. And I'm so glad that you and John said, we're not going to be shamed into being quiet. We're going to have a party, and we're going. And it was so great. I'm so glad you did. So glad you went.
I even thought, if these protesters are trying to get us to not show up out of fear, Trump face down everybody in the world. We can do this. We can get to the ball.
Trump is about the bravest guy I know right now. So
I agree.
He took them all on, and here we are. So, Jody, such a great privilege to meet you and your husband, John. My best to you and your family.
You too. Thanks so much.